You spent hours, maybe days, preparing the perfect Thanksgiving meal, and now you have tons of leftovers. Don't let your hard work go to waste because your leftovers weren't stored properly. Hi, I'm Betsy. I'm Whole30's digital content producer, and I sat down with Nicole Papantoniou. Nicole's the director of Good Housekeeping's Kitchen Appliances and Innovation Lab, and she shared her expert advice on the best way to store, reheat, and repurpose Thanksgiving leftovers. Nicole, thank you so much for being here. You are the director of Good Housekeeping's Kitchen, Appliances, and Innovation Lab, which sounds
Mhm.
really fun.
It
So,
is.
if you don't mind, maybe sharing a little bit about your role, what fun things you get to do, and what your role entails.
Sure. So, as you know, I work at Good Housekeeping and I run the Kitchen Appliances Lab. And what that means is that we test all sorts of kitchen, cooking, eating, drinking ware. So, everything from the cookware that you're cooking in to the knives you're cutting with, cutting boards, and most importantly, food storage, which I think is what we're going to talk about a lot today.
So you have a lot of experience. You are
Oh, yeah.
the go-to person. You probably tried out everything that's in my kitchen and most people's
Yeah,
kitchen.
all the time. We're always testing, which makes my job so fun.
So let's just dive into what we're going to be talking about today, which is Thanksgiving leftovers. My first question to you is, how do you store cooked turkey or ham? How long can you keep it for? And what's the best way to reheat it?
Lots of great questions there. So, the most important thing to remember is that when you're having guests over and your turkey's out, you kind of want to keep it out for no longer than 2 hours. So, that seems like a short amount of time, but that is what the USDA recommends. So, get it in the fridge as soon as you can. The best thing to do, I would say, is to break it down into containers that fit the product that you're cooking with or trying to store away. And you really want to make sure that it has a lid that closes. We don't like using the word airtight because that's really hard to guarantee that it's airtight, but you want it to be nice and sealed. Keep it in your fridge. And I would probably keep the turkey and ham separate, but at the same time, if you are eating everything within the next couple of days, you can condense them. Really, it's up to you.
How would you store a leftover gravy?
Yeah, so gravy is one of those things that tastes the best when it's freshly made or nice and hot. So what I would do is I would cool it down to room temp first and then put it into a container that you can either scoop out of later, or if you are going to use all of it when you're ready to reheat it, put it into something that you could just either pop in the microwave or you can heat up on your stove. I would reheat your gravy separate than your other ingredients because things heat up at different rates. So to make sure that your gravy tastes the best, then whatever you're putting it on tastes the best, do it at separate times. So this way everything is still there and captured.
Perfect. And I believe I had seen a note that you mentioned storing it in ice cube
Yeah.
containers.
Silicone ice
That's
cube
cool.
containers are really great because you can basically portion them out that way and then pop them out as you need them. You could even store them in ice cube trays and then transfer them to a resealable bag and then again pop them out as you need them. So it's just a little hack that if you want to keep it for longer than let's say the 5 days in your fridge, they'll last for at least a month in your freezer, maybe longer. You just want to avoid the freezer burn when it comes to that.
Let's talk about sides, like stuffing and mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, or cranberry sauce. Will all of this keep for around the same amount of time? How would you store these?
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing. So if you can put them into a container that fits their size and there isn't that much air around them, you'll get them to last longer. But at the same time, if you're eating them the next day or the right day after, then I wouldn't even worry too much about transferring them to a container that fits because ultimately they'll just be in your fridge for a couple of days. I would again choose something that has a lid that seals to help them stay fresher longer. But if you're eating them the day after, you can just use aluminum foil to cover whatever container. And it's again up to you whether you want to condense things, whether you want to keep them separate, pretty basic. I probably wouldn't go past the 5 day mark on a lot of the leftovers. You probably want to eat them before that. Or the other option is putting them in the freezer and they'll last longer there.
Is there a way that you enjoy eating the leftovers?
That makes me smile because Thanksgiving is always a holiday that my parents would host our whole lives. So for me, having leftovers for breakfast was always such a childhood memory. And honestly, till this day, I still love it. A lot of times I do like eating things cold, but at the same time, honestly, popping them in the microwave is just really nostalgic for me. It reminds me of my childhood. So really straightforward. And then if I'm really eating them for longer, I love actually making a soup out of the turkey carcass the next day, and that's one way of repurposing your leftovers without eating the same thing, and it's also really nourishing, and after eating a full day's worth of food the day before, it's a nice, like, treat, I feel, very warm and cozy.
Yeah, that's really is such a great tip because a lot of times I don't think we think about the carcass,
Right.
just discard it, and it's such a great thing
Oh,
that we
yeah.
can use, an excellent ingredient.
Mhm.
So,
It makes really good broth, really rich, really I'm sure you know this too, like, just very nutritious, so it's, I always save it, so you always see bags of turkey carcasses in my fridge for a few days after.
what about softer veggies like green beans or glazed carrots or salad? Is there a way to prepare and serve these things so they keep better in the fridge?
So same idea, transfer them to a container. Salads are a little bit temperamental because they'll get soggy, they might wilt, but what I usually like to do, especially with your salads, you might not want to dress the entire thing for your dinner. You might want people to serve themselves, dress themselves, and that'll help it last longer. I also like to keep my salads separate than other foods that I'm storing, and I tend to like to put a paper towel on top of them just to kind of absorb excess moisture. And this way it kind of just like helps it from becoming soggy. So when it comes to your veggies, again in that sealable container, but a salad is like the only one that could be a little tricky and you might just want to see how it is before serving it the next day or eat it sooner than the other sides.
And what's like your preferred green for salads? Do you like romaine, arugula? Do you like mixed green? Like
Yeah.
what's the go-to?
I really enjoy romaine. I love how crispy it is and how watery, and especially when you have all those like really dense Thanksgiving foods, it's nice and light. My family, we're Greek and Italian, so we very often have like a Greek inspired salad with dill and feta cheese and scallions. So it just like and lemon as like a part of the dressing. So it really just brightens everything up.
How about bread and rolls?
So different breads hold different ways. So like a softer bread, you could probably keep it in a sealable container and you kind of so basically think of something that you want to stay soft. Then you would put it in a container that seals in the air. If you have like a crusty sourdough, then in the paper bag is probably best idea or in a bread bin. A lot of the softer ones you can also freeze, like that could be a good option. And one thing I also like to think about that some people might even find unusual, but like resealable bags are a really great way to store different types of leftovers because they accommodate different sizes, different shapes. You can fold them over, get the air out, things like that. So I would put rolls in a resealable bag and then you can just have access to them.
Let's talk about dessert. In part two of our conversation with Nicole, we'll be talking all about pies and other sweet treats.